Dr. Kamal Sharma, Dr. Bhupesh Shah, Dr. Sanjeev Sen Gupta, and Dr. Anand Rao. First up, we have Dr. Girish Godbole.
Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. So we are starting our first lecture, that is the Management of Calcified Nodule by Dr. Girish Godbole. Over to you, Dr. Girish.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you to Dr. Patel and team for this opportunity. Makes my job a little easier that you saw an intervention on a calcific nodule being done earlier today. But the fundamental thing about any angioplasty is that we require a well-apposed stent in a well-expanded lesion. And calcium is one of the main causes of suboptimal lesions after a PCI. And every parameter you look at, everything is worse. You have more TLRs, we have more recurrent events, and more repeat interventions required. Now, calcium is not a homogeneous thing. It's a very different animal, and it can be present in many different forms. In the same vessel, in the same patient, in different lesions, you can have different morphologies. Now, as far as calcium is concerned, we know that angiography has very poor sensitivity for detection, and therefore, for imaging of intravascular, for imaging of coronary calcification, we have to use intravascular imaging. And as far as calcium is concerned, IVUS is outscored by OCT. Now, a calcific nodule is amongst the most challenging lesions to treat. It was first described in the late 90s via an IVUS study. And essentially, a calcified nodule is a specific type of a very heavily calcified lesion which protrudes into the coronary lumen. Now, if you look at the previous literature, it would be called calcific nodule or nodular calcium. For the purpose of this talk, I'm just going to keep it simple. Calcium nodules are of two types. You either have an eruptive calcific nodule or a non-eruptive calcific nodule. Now, how common is it? The older studies probably underestimated it. In ACS patients, it's been found up to 17 to 30%. And in the more recent data where there is the studies which have used calcium modification techniques, including rotablation or IVL, the incidence of calcium nodule is much, much higher, almost half. Now, who are the patients who are likely to have a calcific nodule? Older patients, females, people who have diabetes, people who have had bypass surgeries in the past, as well as people who have chronic kidney disease or people who are on dialysis. It's particularly relevant to know that the presence of calcific nodules and culprit lesions in ACS patients has been reported to be as high as 40%. So these are the patients in whom you have to look for and expect calcific nodules. So where do you find this more often? So which lesion should you suspect? So these nodules are more frequently found at the sites of hinge motion of severely calcific coronary lesions, especially the ostial or the mid-right coronary artery, and also in areas of high lipid burden and necrotic core, such as the left main bifurcation and the proximal coronary tree. Now, there has been enough studies and enough data to document what arteries are most commonly affected, and the right coronary as well as the proximal LAD has been shown in multiple studies to be significantly involved. Now, how does it happen? So it's very important to understand this because your management will depend on it. So when you're talking about calcification, you can have no calcification in a lesion and as it gets worse, you end up with nodular calcium. Now, basically the pathophysiology is this. When you have calcification, if you have a nice uniform sheet of collagen, you have uniform deposition of calcium. In areas which are hinge points, your collagen matrix is deficient. So you don't have a sheet calcium which forms there. You have calcific spicules which form, and they in turn protrude into the lumen, and then they cause an acute coronary syndrome. And some of the protrusions heal, and you have osteophytes being formed, and that over time grows into a calcific nodule. So you could have sorry, I can't seem to show here, but yeah. So you could have two varieties of the non-eruptive nodule. One where you'll see in the figure C there, where the lipidic portion progresses. So you essentially have calcium on a pillow. And the other one, which you see in D, is all calcium. So this is non-deformable, and that has implications. So essentially you have eruptive and non-eruptive. The fundamental difference is that you have a disrupted fibrous cap with an overlying thrombus when it comes to an eruptive calcific nodule, whereas a non-eruptive calcific nodule has an intact fibrous cap and no thrombus. So the non-eruptive nodules are stable, the eruptive nodules are very active and cause acute coronary syndrome. So therefore your approach has to be different. So again, I re-emphasize intravascular imaging is a must, and you will see, for example, here, you see the extent of calcium, you see the lamina here, external elastic lamina here, and this you see, you can't see the deeper calcium there at all. Now, the difference, as I said, is whether a calcific nodule is deformable or not. So an eruptive calcific nodule by its very nature is deformable typically. Therefore, you can treat it using standard percutaneous intervention techniques. So you do not typically require any advanced level of intervention. You can get away a lot of the time with standard non-compliant balloons, and your acute results are very good. However, the long-term results are a lot worse. So if you see here, the stent expansion is a lot better in a eruptive nodule as opposed to a non-eruptive nodule, but your long-term outcomes are significantly worse. So it's easy to get an acute result, but in the long term it is worse. So you do have a lot of difference in terms of instant restenosis, and I'll just show you case report with an extreme form of repeat interventions which were required. So this was a calcific nodule which is documented on OCT, stented, very good result. 5 weeks later, there's a recurrence of the lesion. So repeat intervention is done, repeat stent is put in, excellent acute result, and then another 6 weeks later, you have a recurrence of the nodule. This is an extreme form. It's not the typical behavior, but even this can happen. This is not my case. This is published. I've taken this from literature, but this is what can happen with eruptive nodule. So an eruptive nodule is not a friendly foe. Now, when it comes to non-eruptive nodules, again, we said it can be calcium on a pillow or a gel, or it can be completely hard. If you have a deformable non-eruptive nodule, again, you might be able to get away with standard techniques, whereas if it is a non-deformable nodule, you will require atherectomy techniques. And the typical ones which we use are orbital atherectomy, which you saw this morning, rotational atherectomy in certain cases, and you can also use intravascular lithotripsy. Now, I have not mentioned ECLA here, that there's not a lot of data on treating calcified nodules with that. Now, orbital atherectomy, as you saw today, and you will have a talk on orbital atherectomy a little later this afternoon. So I'm not going to go too much into the detail, but typically it is less affected by wire bias. It is affected by wire bias, but it is less so. And the advantage is that it can achieve substantial debulking of the nodule. And I'll show you one of my cases where it's very obvious, especially if the lumen is very small. So if the lumen is very small, you gain a lot of lumen. If you start with a large lumen, your lumen gain and debulking is a little lesser. As far as rotational atherectomy is concerned, you require a very, very favorable wire bias, and typically you would require to use larger burr sizes, and generally speaking, debulking is inadequate. And why it is what I was talking about in terms of rotational versus orbital. Here it just drills along a straight line, whereas there is some lateral movement, which is the orbit of the orbital atherectomy, which works favorably for us when we are talking about calcific nodules. Now, when we are again talking about wire bias, this is a calcific nodule, the wire is here, and rotational atherectomy has only debulked a little bit, whereas an orbital has debulked a lot more, and you have a lot more luminal area gain here. IVL, which is also a very useful tool. It helps in calcium cracking, but it does not debulk. That is the fundamental difference. You have to be very clear about that. And it might be safer. Obviously, there's not a lot of moving parts. It's like just taking your balloon at the location and just deliver the pulses. And therefore, it's a lot more user-friendly. There is data to say that you get good results, whether it is with a nodule or without nodule with IVL. There's also some Indian data which says that you get a good luminal gain, and you can successfully implant stents with good luminal area gain at the end of the procedure. And so this is what you can achieve with orbital and IVL. So how do you approach a patient with a calcific nodule? If you have to use intravascular imaging, and then the fundamental division is whether it is eruptive or non-eruptive. If it is eruptive, it is likely to be deformable. Therefore, you just go along the normal Perkinase angioplasty techniques. If it is non-eruptive, look at whether it is deformable or not. If it is non-deformable, you will require to use one of the methods of atherectomy, and then convert that into a deformable lesion, and then go ahead and stent it. So when you are using, these are the recommendations from SKY. If you are using intervening calcific nodules, definitely use imaging, and then you have to modify your techniques for different things. Quickly go through two of my patients. This patient had an angioplasty before. So mid-LAD you see there's a fairly reasonable lesion there. It looks fairly innocuous. Put in a balloon there, dilated it, gave away a little bit, and this is the OCT. Just I'll let this play. And there's very extensive calcium, but now you'll begin to see that nodule. Right? So you have both superficial calcium, you have concentric calcium, you have eccentric calcium, and you have a nodule. So it's basically a tunnel of calcium showing various types of morphologies. So in this, what I did was use an IVL, and post-IVL we have reasonable lumen gain. And when I did the OCT after the IVL, again, this is a very telling study and tells you the power of IVL. So what we find are some dissections and proper cracks in calcium in multiple places. And even in the area of the nodule, there are quite large cracks. So then I went ahead and stented the lesion, and this is after the stent deployment. So distal edge is okay. There's some minor malapposition which I corrected, and even in the area of the nodule, the apposition is decent, and you have a good lumen gain and a good proximal edge. This one is a 68-year-old chap who had a right coronary artery lesion, very typical location. You see it's a very tight lesion there. So a lot of calcium, and just did a trial dilatation with the 2.5 NC, and once that passed I could do an OCT. And so the distal part you see is a stent where it had been deployed many about 20 years ago. So again, what you have is concentric calcium, but good lumen distally. And this is where you have a very tight calcific nodule with about 1.2 lumen area and 3 here. So this is, so I had a wire down for the OCT. Now that I know the morphology, and Viper being a very friendly wire, I didn't exchange it over a microcatheter. I just parallel wired it across the lesion. It's a very friendly wire. And then once I did, of course, the orbital was very easy. So again, it's if your lumen is more than 3, it is okay to use 120, but by and large, you don't require to exceed 80K speed. This is post-orbital, and you'll see the whole thing is cored. So you see the sanding by the, you see the nice core they had taken out of the nodule by the orbital atherectomy everywhere. And then dilated with a cutting balloon. Again, the interest of time, I'll rush forward. Multiple dissections, but very nice lumen gain. And then 3.538 stent, post-dilated well. And this is what we have at the end. So well deployed, well opposed stent. So some across a side branch, there's some, that's why you see the red. But overall, your stent opposition is very good with great lumen gains. So this is the pre, this is after the ablation, and this is what we get. So to finish, calcium nodules are a particularly difficult subset to treat. So the key is to expect nodules in those subset of patients and in those locations. Always use intravascular imaging, preferably OCT, to detect and define. And then once you have that, if you have an eruptive nodule, you go with standard techniques. And if you have a non-eruptive nodules, you may have to adapt one of the atherectomy techniques to get a good results. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, and we can invite 1 or 2 questions in quick time. I think, should we consider rota as the crossing device and orbital as the debulking?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
very
In
clear
principle,
message.
yes. Though I have on occasion used orbital to cross in balloon non-crossable lesions, but that's not its job. Its job is to debulk, crack and debulk. So yes, if it's balloon non-crossable, you should use rota.
Okay. So, thank you very much, and then
Thank
we'll
you.
switch to next session.